There was such a want to change my environment. Robyn struggled with the whole thing. I mean, she married me under the premise of plural marriage.
Never mistake a child support payment for fatherhood, unless you're Kody Brown. There's a persistent myth that paying child support automatically grants a man the right to play devoted father on social media. It doesn't. If a parent doesn't legally fight for custody or visitation, they have no claim to either, no matter how many checks they sign. Child support and custody are not a buy one, get one deal. They're separate obligations, and one does not absolve the other. Some fathers seem baffled by this concept. They cry foul about unfair courts, evil exes, and imaginary conspiracies keeping them from their kids. In reality, most of these men never showed up in court to begin with. They didn't want responsibility, just the optics of fatherhood. Kody Brown has become the poster child for that brand of delusion, the man who mistakes financial contribution for emotional presence. The poor dad narrative has an entire fan club. There's even a movement among self-proclaimed victims who insist, if you need child support, just give custody to the dad. This, of course, is the rallying cry of men who neither understand nor care about the work of raising a child. These are not reformers. They're apologists for their own absence. Their opinions are worth as much as their involvement, essentially nothing. And even the maximum child support payment is, frankly, peanuts compared to the actual cost of raising a child. Most single parents know this well. It's not windfall money. It's a token gesture toward an unshared burden. The irony is that Kody's defenders often point to the moments he was present, the wrestling matches, the laughter, the photo ops. But parenting is not a highlight reel. It's the mundane, thankless work of showing up every day. Did Kody wake up for midnight fevers? Change diapers? Cook breakfast? Help with homework? Of course not. His fatherhood was limited to the fun parts, the ones that didn't inconvenience him. The original 3 wives once called him a good dad, but that praise says more about their low bar than his character. They didn't have a real model of hands-on fatherhood, so a few hours of cheerful play probably looked like excellence in comparison. Now with Truly, the neglect is even harder to disguise. His public heart-to-heart moments are performative at best, scripted attempts to rehabilitate an image that's long since disintegrated. The reality is simple. He never made space for her, literally or emotionally. Even his house seems designed for everyone but the children who aren't Robyn's. Kody Brown's fatherhood has always been conditional, an act performed when convenient, abandoned when not. Paying child support may fulfill a legal duty, but it doesn't make him a parent. The rest of us have eyes, and we've seen the truth for years. Kody was a deadbeat dad from day one. He just learned to disguise it in designer jeans and self-pity. Everyone blames Robyn for breaking the family, but what if Kody's betrayal started years before she ever arrived? Kody Brown has long performed the impossible balancing act of being a father of many, while appearing emotionally available to few. His children's relationships with him read like a hierarchy rather than a family tree. Some got the doting patriarch, others got the ghost of one. It's no mystery that Kody's household has always run on selective affection. Certain children, most notably Maddie and Leon, were once at the top of the pyramid. Maddie, for instance, enjoyed the benefits of being one of Kody's chosen few, which makes her current sense of betrayal sting even more. Leon, on the other hand, had years to dissect their upbringing through the lens of a social work education, confronting Kody's inadequacies with analytical distance rather than raw emotion. Meanwhile, Gwen recently pointed out that Janelle's children now understand how Christine's kids always felt: ignored, marginalized, and ultimately expendable. The irony, of course, is that Janelle once insisted everything was fine because her needs were met. Apparently, fine only applied as long as her family's favored status remained intact. When the same neglect that Christine's kids endured finally reached Janelle's household, the illusion shattered. For years, Kody seemed most comfortable in Janelle's testosterone-heavy home, where his ego could thrive unchallenged by competition from daughters. Savannah's birth temporarily broke that pattern, granting her a special connection with her father, one that felt unique until Robyn's children appeared and displaced everyone in Kody's emotional pecking order. The resulting resentment wasn't born in a vacuum. It was televised, analyzed, and broadcast for all to see. And then there's Leon, often assumed to be less favored because of Kody's chronic irritation with Mary, but evidence suggests otherwise. Early on, Leon shared lively debates and a genuine bond with their father, something the younger kids never experienced. Kody's disdain grew with each child who wasn't photogenic, compliant, or athletically impressive. He adored the well-behaved and camera-ready, Aspyn's sweetness, Isabel's beauty, Logan and Hunter's athleticism, while dismissing the spirited or less flattering. The myth that Kody only turned into a disconnected father after Robyn's arrival is convenient but false. Christine herself admitted that her children were always treated as second-class citizens, long before the fourth wife entered the picture. The favoritism didn't begin with Robyn. She simply became the latest beneficiary of it. What makes Kody's estrangement from Maddie particularly poignant now is that it extends to her children, his grandchildren. While most grandparents gush over their grandkids, Kody exhibits a startling absence of interest. He's not just neglecting his adult children, he's erasing himself from future generations altogether. The tragedy of Kody Brown's family dynamic is that it was never about love equally shared. It was about validation selectively distributed. For years, the favored believed they were cherished because they earned it. Only now do they see the truth. They were simply convenient.
Kody Brown says Robyn's house is too painful to live in, but Christine's breakup house was somehow fair game? Let's unpack that lie. Kody Brown's approach to real estate could double as a case study in self-serving delusion. His logic, if we can call it that, defies both emotional coherence and financial transparency. On one hand, he desperately wanted to buy Christine's old house, the very scene of their marital collapse and the last place his estranged children called home. On the other, he declared Robyn's McMansion, shared with his only remaining legal wife, too painful to inhabit. The man who filmed his own breakups for reality television suddenly claims emotional fragility over square footage. The truth is simpler and far less sentimental. Kody's interest in Christine's house had nothing to do with nostalgia or catharsis. It was about acquisition, pure and simple. The property was a solid investment. Desirable location, large lot, ready equity. And if he could convince Janelle to use her money to buy it, even better. That would make it yet another family asset he could quietly claim a share of later. Kody's romanticized talk about memories and healing was never anything more than smoke over a financial fire. He wanted Janelle installed in that house not out of care but convenience. She and her children needed a roof, and Christine's place provided an easy, low-effort fix, close enough to Robyn's home for him to maintain control, yet far enough to stage the illusion of independence. The arrangement also gave him a built-in storage unit for his endless parade of summer cars and emotional baggage. The parallels to Mary's barndominium saga are hard to miss. Wives relegated to living amid his leftovers while Robyn's comfort remains the only logistical priority. Kody's supposed panic attacks when driving past Christine's former home add another layer of absurdity. For a man allegedly haunted by bad memories, he's curiously drawn to the source. His pattern is telling. Each house he touches eventually becomes a monument to his failures, and his instinct is always to flee rather than repair. Christine's house, Robyn's mansion, the RV debacle, it's all the same story. Blame the building, never the behavior. One might attempt to defend Kody's latest round of house hopping as trauma response. After all, losing a child is an unimaginable pain. But that explanation doesn't square with his history. His real estate moves have always aligned neatly with convenience, control, and cash flow. The emotional narrative shifts only when it suits him. In the end, Kody's housing choices say more about his priorities than his pain.
Homes for him aren't spaces of love or family. They're props in a long-running performance about power and possession. And like every season of Sister Wives, the set keeps changing, but the script never does. Everyone thinks Mykelti and Tony are living off TLC money, but what if that's not where the cash really comes from? The spectacle of Mykelti and Tony's seemingly idyllic lifestyle has become something of a financial mystery. Their immaculate new home, spacious, stylish, and entirely at odds with their supposed side gig professions, has left many viewers squinting at the screen, trying to balance the budget on their behalf. The public record suggests the pair rents rather than owns the property, which immediately makes their lavish setup more plausible. After all, renting is far easier to reconcile with fluctuating incomes than a six-figure mortgage. Their previous Utah home was owned, but in Nevada, they appear to have taken a more flexible approach. Perhaps wisely, given the unpredictable income streams tied to reality television fame. Professionally, the couple's resume reads like a patchwork of side hustles. Tony's much-discussed chess coaching gig remains part-time, an evening pursuit unlikely to bankroll luxury real estate. Mykelti, for her part, reportedly holds a full-time sales job that, miraculously, is not connected to the notorious multi-level marketing ventures she once championed. Her former affiliations with LuLaRoe and Plexus have apparently been shelved, sparing her followers from the pastel nightmare of another product push. Of course, there's also the ever-reliable fallback of the reality star economy, monetized exposure. Between their paid appearances on Sister Wives and a modest Patreon following, they're likely not living hand-to-mouth. While their compensation may not reach celebrity heights, it's safe to assume the network isn't exploiting them entirely gratis. In short, the Browns' adult children appear to have mastered the art of modern influencer subsistence, a delicate balancing act of modest employment, residual fame, and strategic online visibility. Mykelti and Tony's finances may remain opaque, but their survival strategy is clear. Live visibly, diversify income, and keep the mystery alive just enough to stay interesting. They call it a family, but it looks more like a fan club built around one man's ego. And Robyn's daughters are the star members. In the Brown household, 18 and out was once treated as an unwritten rule, at least for everyone not named Sullivan. Yet Robyn's daughters remain comfortably ensconced under their mother's roof, blissfully exempt from the independence expected of their half-siblings. The reason? Their mother's last name might as well be Exception. These young women occupy a unique space in the Brown hierarchy, docile, deferential, and strategically adoring. They stroke Kody's ego without challenging his fragile head-of-household delusion, a marked contrast to Janelle's outspoken sons, who committed the unforgivable sin of growing spines. It's no wonder the daughters are allowed to linger. They pose no threat to the self-appointed patriarch's authority. Every narcissist needs an audience, and these two provide front-row devotion. As for careers, the Brown daughters' ambitions appear to orbit a familiar family theme: performance without purpose. The pair dabbles in religious music, offering up tearful renditions of "Jesus Loves Me," as though sincerity can be manufactured with a quivering lip. Talent is, of course, optional when the performance's true goal is piety points. Their student status provides another convenient shield from adulthood. Aurora is well past traditional college age, and Brianna isn't far behind, yet both remain perennial undergraduates. Perhaps they're pursuing a double major in husband hunting and emotional dependency, fields in which conservative households often encourage lifelong study. The setup benefits everyone who matters. Kody gets to play savior to his ever-grateful damsels, basking in their admiration. Robyn maintains her fantasy of the perfect family compound, where her grown children never stray too far, and Kody can bro out with future sons-in-law who, one assumes, will also be expected to worship him. The hypocrisy is glaring. Kody's sudden insistence on independence during COVID, when he expelled Janelle's sons under the guise of health protocols, had little to do with safety and everything to do with control. Once those boys stopped obeying, they stopped being welcome. Meanwhile, Robyn's offspring could have taken up permanent residence in Neverland without objection, so long as they continued curtsying to the king. Some argue the real tragedy lies in Robyn's original children, emotionally subdued and conditioned to equate obedience with worth. They were told their biological father abandoned them, he didn't, and that Kody rescued them from emotional ruin. Under that manipulation, it's little wonder they struggle with anxiety and autonomy. Neither daughter works, not even part-time. Dayton, despite being capable and educated, still lives at home. Independence would mean no longer needing Kody, and that simply won't do for a man who measures love by proximity and submission. Robyn's household is less a family unit and more a carefully curated exhibit of dependency. Every tear, every soft-spoken, "Yes, Dad," reinforces Kody's myth of paternal grandeur. It's not a home, it's a shrine to his ego, maintained by women too sheltered or too indoctrinated to walk out the door. Christine Brown just exposed the biggest lie Kody's ever told, and she did it without even raising her voice. Christine Brown's recent sit-down with Sam and Melissa from Growing Up in Polygamy offered a rare, measured glimpse behind the chaos of sister wives. The discussion, centered around her new book, unfolded with surprising calm. Between reflections on her upbringing within the AUB and recollections of Las Vegas life, Christine appeared grounded, thoughtful, even serene. Perhaps Sam's steady composure rubbed off. His cool detachment seemed to temper her usual high-energy delivery. The result was one of Christine's most composed and likable appearances to date. She was, of course, careful, diplomatically so, when the inevitable question arose about Sister Wives Season 21. Bound by her NDA, she only revealed that filming continues, reportedly on a bi-weekly schedule. That seemingly small detail speaks volumes. It subtly confirms what many suspected. The cameras are still rolling. The Brown saga remains profitable. And as long as viewers continue to watch, TLC will happily supply more dysfunction on demand. The interview also inadvertently exposed, yet again, the widening gap between Christine's candor and Kody Brown's creative relationship with reality. In one of his now infamous defensive outbursts, likely from the pandemic era, Kody sneered that audiences see only 20 minutes of their lives and then presume to judge. It was a transparent attempt at damage control, as though the problem were airtime, not behavior. The implication that the entire family is filmed for 20 minutes a year is, of course, absurd. Christine's quiet remark that filming happens every other week offers a more believable account.
But accuracy has never been Kody's strong suit. He lies reflexively, almost recreationally, as though testing the boundaries of what people will tolerate. Meanwhile, Christine, Janelle, and even Mary have presented accounts that align far more closely with reality. Kody's version of events shifts with the wind, an unreliable narrator clinging to his own mythology while the women he once ruled over calmly dismantle it, one interview at a time. In the end, Christine's poise in this conversation stands as the sharpest contrast imaginable to Kody's bluster. She's not just moving on, she's rewriting the narrative, gracefully, strategically, and, for once, without needing to raise her voice. Ever wonder how Robyn Brown manages to live like a queen without a visible paycheck? Let's talk about the secret empire funding her royal lifestyle. For someone who has spent over a decade perfecting the art of televised martyrdom, Robyn Brown remains curiously evasive when it comes to something as mundane as a legitimate income. While her ex-sister wives have each spun the family's fame into profitable online ventures, Robyn and Kody's financial endeavors exist somewhere between folklore and farce, whispered rumors of faceless businesses, hidden MLMs, and the occasional doll obsession masquerading as entrepreneurship. Even with TLC's money and Kody's elusive gun business, the pair's spending habits appear to outpace their income. The original three wives, Mary, Janelle, and Christine, each pivoted early into online retail when the family was still united, capitalizing on their individual fan bases with savvy marketing and actual effort. Robyn, however, remains the outlier. The woman who once helmed My Sister Wife's closet, A venture so ill-conceived it practically screamed clearance rack now seems to have vanished from the world of commerce altogether. Unless, of course, she hasn't. There's a persistent theory that Robyn operates an anonymous online business, possibly tied to her American Girl doll fixation. The speculation goes something like this. She buys dolls cheaply, dresses them in overpriced miniature couture, and flips them for profit. Because what else could justify her compulsive spending on doll clothing? The image of Kody skulking through a store with dolls in his cart only adds fuel to the absurdity. Still, it's arguably the most plausible business model attached to her name, which says more about her options than her acumen. Others suggest she's involved in yet another multi-level marketing scheme, though the logistics defy reason. Building a customer base would require her to use her own name, a problem for someone whose public reputation hovers somewhere between unpopular and villain edit. Any MLM effort would need to be faceless and frictionless, the kind of business one can manage between long naps and sporadic tears.
And yet, Robyn herself has hinted at working when she learned of Garrison's death, implying there is, in fact, some income-generating activity hidden in her routine. Given her self-professed aversion to stress and her midday sleep schedule, this mysterious job would have to be online, remote, and require the least possible human contact. An ideal setup for both a secret doll resale business or a low-stakes MLM hustle. Kody, meanwhile, contributes his own brand of smoke and mirrors, claiming to buy and sell precious metals, a phrase that sounds suspiciously like, "I have no job, but I like to sound important." Between his mythical metal trades and Robyn's alleged doll trafficking, the Browns' financial portfolio looks more like a satire of self-employment than an actual income strategy. All this speculation persists despite one simple fact: Sister Wives is still a cash cow. Even with the ratings roller coaster over the years, the show remains one of TLC's longest-running franchises. Based on industry standards and prior reports, the family could easily be earning between $1.5 and $2 million collectively per season, particularly after the recent resurgence in viewership. The televised funerals, divorces, and public meltdowns aren't just family drama, they're business decisions. Which leads to the final irony. While Mary, Christine, and Janelle found independence through entrepreneurship, Robyn's work remains shrouded in mystery, propped up by Kody's financial fantasy life and the steady paycheck of public humiliation. Her real skill isn't business, it's survival by sympathy. And on that front, she's turned obscurity into an art form. Subscribe, because someone has to bring color back to the desert.